XRP holders, I want you to be very careful here. A lot of people are calling for a massive push to the upside coming very soon, saying it looks like it's primed for a breakout. And I want to be very clear with what I'm expecting here. No, this isn't FUD. No, this isn't meant to scare you out of your positions. And yes, I'm still holding what I consider at least a large XRP bag. But I want you guys to be aware of what is really going on so you can make informed decisions. And if you do want, I'm going to be talking about XRP here on this channel much more often once again. So if you want to, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date every single time I drop a video. Now, with that said, if we do jump back over to Twitter here, we can see ETF flows, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP saw net inflows on February 9th, while Solana spot ETFs saw net outflows. Could this be showing weakness for Solana, but actually bullishness for Ethereum and XRP? Like I've been discussing, guys, my largest holdings in my portfolio are Bitcoin, number one, and then the altcoins are Solana, XRP, and we have Ethereum. Right, those are the largest positions in my portfolio. Behind that, I have a few exchange tokens, I have Dogecoin, and a few other little bits here and there. But the reason why I picked, for example, XRP as the long-term bag for altcoins is all of these, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, they have ETFs, right? And I think that the next wave, or maybe the long-term move for Bitcoin, involves ETFs and involves crypto investing for the most part. And when I say the most part, I mean like the most amount of capital from all around, right? For the most part, I expect it to be done like the S&P 500, this ETF investing way, right? So people, in my opinion and my thesis in the future, what they're going to do is like me on a Monday, I buy the NASDAQ, the S&P 500 and All World Index. Every Monday, I just buy that. I don't think about it. I just put a certain amount of money in and yeah, happy days. That grows, right? I believe that in the future, people are going to do the same as me, except they're going to have a basket of crypto that sit in that ETF. So let's say the S&P 500, let's say NASDAQ for that tech exposure. And then for cryptocurrencies, they're going to invest into their basket, which includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and maybe Doge, because they all have ETFs, right? And that's kind of where I think the mass liquidity is going to flow into the market. Now, I still think most liquidity will flow towards Bitcoin, but I do think the larger caps have a big opportunity. Now, the interesting thing about including XRP in that basket is it does different things, right? We've got Solana for decentralized smart contracts. We've got Ethereum for maybe infrastructure, like things like when you buy a property, the title deed might sit on the Ethereum blockchain. Then we have XRP, which is, you know, the banking favorite token. These sorts of things I think are important. They can all work together cohesively to give people access, like the S&P 500, to a basket of crypto, right? That spreads out their investment. So they're not just invested into Bitcoin, or they're not just invested into meme coins. They're not just invested into decentralized finance, whether it's Solana or Ethereum, right? It's diversifying. And that's what I think is going to happen. That's why I think it's very important to pay attention to what is happening with these ETFs. Now, the reason for the warning, the reason for the video, the reason for it is that XRP right now, and it has been for a long time and will continue to be until maybe one day it decouples. But like people talk about Bitcoin being coupled with the NASDAQ, for example, XRP is coupled to Bitcoin. The way Bitcoin moves dictates the way the altcoin market move, and XRP is an altcoin. Maybe one day it separates. Maybe one day the price action will not be correlated, but right now it is correlated. So I think it's very important to pay attention to what's happening with Bitcoin to figure out what might happen with XRP. You can see XRP made its first highs back in December 24. What was Bitcoin doing in December 24? You can see it was making its highs. We went on to do new highs between July and October. What was XRP doing? July. All-time highs. It's very correlated to the way Bitcoin moves. So yes, we can look at XRP and we can say, well, it's forming a bear flag, it's forming a bull flag, it's forming support, resistance, yada, yada, yada. But even if it has a bull flag, if Bitcoin shits the bed, XRP will too. And that's what I want you guys to be aware of. I don't want you to think, or you're welcome to. This is how I think, right? I don't want you to think that they're separate. XRP, in my opinion, will not parabolically move to the upside if Bitcoin is a significant bear market where there's no liquidity. The liquidity will not just move directly into XRP in this current market environment. The reason I hold XRP in my portfolio is I believe that one day this could very much change. We might see XRP sit outside of this whole way that the Bitcoin or the crypto market correlates what Bitcoins do. That may one day happen, but right now, I don't believe that it will. I don't believe that we're going to see, maybe we could see like a 10, 20% pump for XRP, maybe 30%, maybe 40%, but we're not going to see a parabolic rise without the whole market rising with it. And I want to be clear that that's my position here. So guys, on YouTube, the XRP creators are extremely bullish always on XRP. Now, I understand the market in a different way. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying I'm right. We can all have different opinions, right? But if you want a different opinion, right, rather than only following people that are constantly bullish all the time, for me, like I shared on this channel, I took profits from XRP, which I don't think anyone else really did on YouTube. We're talking about the XRP community YouTubers, but I did. So if you want to have access to a slightly different opinion, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, guys. Now, with that said, what's going on with the market? Because outside of XRP, we've got major recession signals flashing. The US labor market is not doing so well. Demand is now weaker than levels during 2001 recession. US job openings just dropped to 6.5 million. From March 2022 peak, job openings are now down 5.6 million. This is not good labor market anymore. It's weakening quickly. Layoffs are no longer concentrated to one sector. They are spreading. Healthcare announced 17,000. One of the most concerning signals is healthcare was the last strong hiring pillar. Even more worrying is companies are not planning to replace jobs. That could also have something to do with AI. But what is all of this pointing towards? Well, if this trend continues, it increases pressure on the Federal Reserve. What does it increase pressure for them to do? Easing, right? This is lowering interest rates, because we don't get lowering interest rates in a booming economy. Quite the opposite. So good news is bad news is good news. Extreme fear. 9. The last 3 days have been in extreme fear. This is a very rare point. I know it feels like the market's been very scared for a very long time, but the amount of fear in the market is actually very rare. All right. Since 2018, you can really count below 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of bang on 10, but let's call it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in 8 years, we've reached this 10 times. All right, this point. Now, that might sound like a lot, but we tend to rally really violently out of it, at least when it comes to the crypto greed and fear index. Now, that, of course, is the reason I added to my trade here. It has $18,000 of floating profit. I've taken out a nice portion of this profit already, and I've been taking out about $1,000 a day live on my other channel. That was the plan for this. Buy when everyone's scared, and then take profits while the market gets excited. If we end up rejecting and going back down, I can close this trade out, keep my profit, and then wait for the next scary, violent move to the downside to open the next trade. That's how I like to trade, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.